With that being said, we also wanted to update not just the lab, but also the lower school science. And so we're doing a pilot year in a few of the grades with Nancy Larson Science, which is a program or a curriculum that is used in a lot of independent schools and private schools. They meet all the NGSS standards, as the next generation science standards. There's really kind of a need to modernize all of our materials for that because it's just something we need to do to give our kids that edge. And so in a few of the grades, they're going to try this out. It is well liked when I picked it out. It was really easy to use for teachers because I know a lot of the teachers get really nervous when I'm like, yay, there's science. And I'm like, oh, I hate teaching science. And so this is like something that's like easy for them to do. All the materials came and the teachers went through professional development to use it and all seemed really excited about teaching it. So hopefully you'll hear about it and get those things home too. We do feel like that's important. It shouldn't just be the lab science. It should be kind of everywhere. And so I want to touch on a little bit the NGSS standards, just so you know. So these are the next generation science standards. They came out in 2013, and they're what most public schools are really teaching towards. And while we don't have to necessarily teach what the public schools are teaching, I do think it's necessary that we meet those standards and possibly go further because we are a private school and we have the possibility to do that. And it's really important. So it actually integrates these three main concepts. And so basically, cross-cutting is where you take all the 4 domains of science and you show how they interconnect. So how life science and physical science connect to one another, how engineering and space science, how they kind of go together. So you can actually see that and the kids can actually see those connections. So it's kind of important for them to do that. Additionally, we have science and engineering practices, so the kids actually go through the scientific method. They use the tools that a scientist would use. They use the terminology that a scientist would use. So they actually get a feel for what it would be like to be in that field, and they do some research on scientists that do those jobs, so it actually allows for that. And lastly, there's the disciplinary core, and those are like the main science concepts. So that's like the vocabulary, the understanding of what is marine science versus aquatic science. They actually know the difference between those things. So allowing them to actually do that, and that's like I always consider like the nitty-gritty science. That's where we like break down what is photosynthesis, what are those things. So it actually gives the key concepts, and it should progress from year to year. It's kind of cyclical, so you'll notice your kids will sometimes do plants multiple times throughout their years in school, and that's because it builds on itself as they go, and so it's not like everything's brand new when they do it. And so it's pretty good. Here at Saklan, we've kind of done a lot of this already. Luckily, our teachers are pretty good at knowing developmentally what's appropriate for our kids, so they've kind of broken things up, integrated them together, which is good. But we also want to make sure we're meeting these standards. And so a new curriculum would definitely make sure we get there and would then give us the opportunity to go past that for our kids. And so I just want to let you kind of know those, because those are something I know Kim is going to talk about, curriculum and where we're going. And this is something with science that we want to make sure we're hitting, if nothing else. Goals for the enhancement process. So like when we sat down to do the room, we're like, what are we really trying to do for our kids? And so one of the main goals was to create a collaborative learning space. I didn't want to lose counter space to have all the kids face forward. So I wanted to make sure we still had that collaborative space. I wanted to make sure kids could all learn and see the board, but also wouldn't lose anything from the lab that they had before. Additionally, we wanted to enrich our science curriculum. And so we want to make sure new materials were bought, new technology that the kids could have experiences with. I think it's really important. A lot of kids are applying for summer camps or applying for high schools. To be able to say you've used certain materials might give you that little bit of edge. And so allowing the students to actually have that opportunity, I think is huge for our kids and something that we needed to do. And then I also wanted just really exciting experiments. I want our kids excited. I get really excited about like little things, and I realize that might not be exciting for them. And so it's really important, I think, for them to have those experiences. And so sometimes that takes, like a big bang or something. And so I was like, I wanted to make sure we were integrating new ones into it as well. And also it's just good, I think, for any teacher to be updating their own curriculum. And so I wanted to make sure that I was doing that for myself, not just for the lower school teachers as well. The other part of this was I wanted to make sure that the kids were getting a high-quality science education. And so in looking at this, trying to make sure we were picking things that were going to ensure that, I thought that was a necessity. And so I wanted to make sure that they were getting, and I'm going to read this because I wrote it and I was really proud of it. So I wanted the students to have an in-depth understanding of content and develop key skills. I wanted them to have communication, collaboration, inquiry, problem solving, and flexibility that will serve them through their education and professional lives. Because a lot of our students actually want to follow science paths. Whether or not they will, that's different. But I want them to have that possibility, and I want them to feel good about going forward in that. And so that's something that was really important to me. And I mean, if you talk to me, I'm like really nerdy about science, so hopefully that comes through. But I really wanted to make sure that our kids were getting that as well. And then I also want a love of science, not just in the lab, but I wanted it through every classroom. So that's why it was important, even starting in ECE, that we made sure we met, like that the kids were getting a STEM start to their education. And so making sure we went through that. And so that's why I imagine you're changing.
That's a great picture.
I know, right? I know. Sorry. I was like, yes, that was good. So basically, I was like, when I was trying to think of the Saklan edge, like why is STEM the thing we should talk about now? Our students really love science. So I feel like anything our students, like the majority of our students love, we should be totally going for. And so STEM is one of those things. I mean, they love a lot of different things, so we gotta hit a lot of topics, Peter. But that's good. But one of those things, this was a great one to start with because it really pulls the kids together and it's a great collaborative thing. And so next, maybe art, music, things like that. That's going to be obviously their next love too. We need to challenge our students. They love to be challenged. They love when I tell them, nope, that can't happen, you gotta figure it out. They love figuring it out. So we gotta challenge them more and more. I wanna excite them. I want all that to happen. I really want them to understand that math is a key component of STEM. And so I'm always like, okay, well, let's break that down. They're like, oh, you want us to graph it, don't you? And so it's really, really fun, but then they actually can make inferences, and it's wonderful that they can make those connections. And then the other reason is because STEM jobs have actually increased since 2000 at a kind of huge rate. In the last year, they actually, STEM degrees were higher. And then since 2000, there's a 28% job increase in STEM jobs, where all other job increases have only been at 6%. So if our kids have this love for it, this is a great foundation to give them if that's what they want to do in their life. There hopefully will be jobs for them in that field if they want it. So something to kind of keep in mind with it. So why Saklan science? And I promise I'm getting to the end because I know I talk a lot. So I really feel like the one thing that I love about our school is our kids come into science ready to put their hands on stuff. They're ready to get dirty. They're ready to really grab on and learn. Really, I think because we're such a small school, we can give them that unique experience. If they're really interested in something, we can actually focus our time and get to what they're interested in and really pull that out of them and focus time onto that passion that they have, which can be really fun. I love relating things to a student's life. I love breaking down fruit to students and having them realize that they're eating an ovary of something. And that they might sound very freaks, but it's one of those things that when they realize what's going on, it's knowledge actually opens their whole head up, and it's really something that's really great. So making science fun, engaging, and relating it back to stuff they know, it really excites them. And so even if they're kind of grossed out the minute, it kind of comes back to help them. We have students who really love science, and even those who don't love science, they're open to loving it, which is really kind of cool to have them in the lab. My first year teaching, and I'm not sure if anybody would remember this, but I had the Garofalo girls, and they used to come in all the time and be like, I hate science. And I was like, awesome. So, but by the end, they were so they were open to kind of having that experience. It was really, really great. And so even if you don't love science, if you're open to potentially liking it, that's what it takes. And your kids all come in with that, which is amazing. Nobody I think has told them in their life, you won't be good at science. And so having that is huge. And so always making sure that we can kind of keep that going is important.